Derivatives trading involves substantial risk of loss and is not suitable for all investors. Past performance is not necessarily indicative of future results.
So stressful when the world's on fire. Good God. I can't look at this, guys. Like, my strategy is you buy it and you hope that you got a good spot. Yeah, but we all think you're crazy. You don't fight this. No way. The markets are freaking out and you don't think that anything is wrong? Come back tomorrow and I'll lose it all. Should be fun. Dude, nothing knocks me off my game more than when I mute the microphone during the intro and forget to turn it back off. I wish that this mic had something like a button on it, but oh well, guys, it is Friday. 3-day weekend. I started the stream early. I had another 3 minutes before we started. So you guys are here with me early. That's okay. We do have some numbers this morning, though, right? We get the core PCE price index. That's a pretty significant number. So we're going to get probably a lot of trade here. And then everybody's going to go home early for the weekend, I think. So, strap yourselves in. Are you guys doing anything? I want to go camping, but I haven't done the appropriate planning. I hope I can find a camping spot. Let's go to charts. Volume profile. All right, so that news yesterday that kind of hurt. It was a little bit oof. Which it was GDP. I didn't think it was that bad, but they traded it down. Now there was also later on some selling later in our session that ended up being off of actually I think it was after our session. Now that I think about it. Anyways, this drop right here was from comments from Feds Harker. So they're kind of back on a hawkish tilt a little bit. I kind of feel like the sentiment in the treasuries has shifted a little bit and we're all on the hawkish tilt. There's the S&P 500, so you kind of got some of that. They're still struggling there with the Nvidia and sorting that all out. So not that bad, but S&P 500 struggling a little bit yesterday. Oil just sideways over the past day. Gold and silver. You know what? Like at points, gold and silver have looked bad, but today that's looking pretty okay. It looks like that they survived all of that unscathed. And then we got copper. Copper actually seeing a little bit of an upturn this morning. I didn't like this downturn over here. That didn't look good, but this is a lot better. And then we got the Japanese yen still going a little bit sideways. This is kind of like up and then just kind of trailing off. I mean, that's pretty good, but that suggests that there's not a whole lot major stuff going on in Japanese yen right now. And the dollar is gently coming back off, and they are at 101.29 this morning. Oh, yep. And then Bitcoin still below 60K. I don't know. Does somebody just really want to keep Bitcoin below 60K? Anyways, like all of this price action in Bitcoin from like basically, I want to say going all the way back to June, right? So like everything from here, it just does not look good to me, right? You had like a pump and it did not last. It really looks to me like there's profit taking in Bitcoin right now, and that's really putting a cap on it. So that's where the markets are at. We got 10 minutes to before the PCE price index month over month. We're looking for a reading of spot 2%, and the core PCE price index month over month. We're looking for spot 17. The previous reading of spot 2. So should be interesting. We're also going to get personal income month over month, which we're expecting to be at spot 2, and U.S. consumer spending month over month, which is, wow, is expected to be spot 5 versus a previous reading of spot 3. I don't think that they're actually going to get that number. You know what? Consumer spending is one of the most difficult places to predict, though, because there was some things going on and everything that kind of made it look like, consumer spending went up. I bought a few things last month, that's all. But it seems to me like the average consumer is spent. Like this whole Dollar General thing yesterday, they had like the biggest one-day decline. It was brutal. That was a brutal decline. Oh, see, Apol is thinking the same thing. Have you looked at Dollar General? I took a quick look now just because that's, yeah. Dude, let's pull that up. No, it's totally relevant though. That you know, it seems mixed though. There are some retailers that are doing okay. We have had some consumer numbers lately that looked good, but then you get things like Dollar General. What is that? What is their stock ticker? Oh, there we go. Dollar General Corporation. Well, let's just take the S&P off. It'll let me. There we go. Holy crap, look at this. Okay, so like they've been struggling. And that gap right there. Ooh, but it's been gappy all the way down. They must be having like more company specific issues too. Because that chart is not just like, oh, the consumer's fault. No, that company is individually having problems. Okay. But it's still a tea leaf that kind of says like it seems like consumers, is particularly the low end consumers, are tapped out. Like we've turned the faucets off. Money, companies all have what do they call this? Like, well, hiring freezes, of course, but then there's also like promotion freezes. Promotion freezes are the worst, dude, because I like that's going on where I work, and so there are people that like they're picking up new responsibilities, but since there's a hot promotion freeze. Anyways, hopefully when they reduce rates, they open the spigots up a little bit, and companies can be a little bit more gracious. Anyways, that number, that's consumer spending spot 5. I'm going to be paying attention to that one because that is a really big outlier in terms of like for the analysts to be predicting spot 5 is unusual. So let's see how that one goes. I was just thinking about the upcoming calendar. I don't know if there's anything like super important next week. Like, well, market dates, there's important stuff because you're going to have First Friday, right? But the debate is on the 10th. So I think that's the next like major world moving deadline. Now, I'm going to scamper over to Reddit, see what people are posting this way. The first thing that I see here is people complaining about Republicans jumping on Harris doing a dual interview with her vice presidential candidate for her first interview. You know what? Everything that I've seen from that interview so far has been like really bad. It doesn't sound like her first interview went very well. I haven't watched it yet, but like if it was a really good interview, wouldn't the first thing that I'd be seeing here on Reddit is people, oh, it was such a great interview. Here's these clips from it that we want to push to everybody. But I'm not seeing that, and I'm seeing lots of stuff on the conservative sites. Like I bet you if I go to the Donald or Patriots, well, their pinned stories aren't anything about that. But the top first one after that, Ganabash asking a question. You've been vice president for 3.5 years. The steps that you're taking about now, why haven't you done them already, Kamala? We've brought inflation down to a higher level than it was during the Trump administration. She's losing a debate with herself. That's yeah. So they are. Who's Kyle Becker? I have a guilty confession to make. The Kamala Harris campaign was right to hide her from the press. This interview is a train wreck. And then, yeah, I don't see anything on Reddit. Well, that's very interesting. At least about the interview itself. Because the first story that I see is about the interview, but that was kind of like before the interview. Good morning, Uzi. Okay, so 1 minute. I guess it's time to lock in here. Again, we're getting PCE price index. These tend to be pretty major numbers for the market. And we have U.S. consumer spending month over month estimate spot 5%, which is very high for that estimate. And they might miss it. So I guess if they miss it, it's a buy the treasuries, right? But let's see what happens. Maybe consumer spending is way stronger than we think, and it's just coming from a different spot. Like I could very much see something like the low end consumer is tapped out, but the high end consumer and boomers are still spending like mad. That could absolutely. Okay, here we go. Okay, the consumer spending is in line with the estimate at spot 5. Personal income is slightly higher than expected at spot 3. But getting to the price index numbers, core PCE was at spot 2 versus an expected spot 1.7. And the headline number was at spot 2 in line with the expected spot 2. So it looks like all of the important numbers came in line with expectations, if not slightly higher. So the only one that really looks like a big change, well, personal income was higher than expected. Personal consumption was higher than expected. So those are both things that I would expect to be a sell in the treasury. It's kind of funny. I'm sitting here like, I should say that because the S&P 500 doesn't seem to know what to do. I got to tell it what to do. But I think that it's a sell. But the market doesn't, because it's all in line, market seems to be like not trading it super hard. And the thing is that it is a 3-day weekend coming up. So I don't think that the really big players are going to want to be placing big bets off of that, right? So it's probably, even though I think that data should be a sell, I think that the market is probably just going to stay where it is for the most part. Well, it did drop. Actually, it came down through there quite quickly. Overnight ranges were super tiny. That like 4 ticks down is honestly like a little bit sus to me. Somebody definitely took it, but I bet you the market maker is going to play games with them there. That's the sort of a thing that's like, let's sucker all of the retail traders into doing something. I mean, the right trade is short. I really do think that like if I was forced to take a position right now, I would be taking a position short. But I do not want to take a position right now. Why? Well, because the numbers were mostly in line. Even though I think that it's a short, the number of orders out there that I think are going to be willing to trade on that is not a lot. Like, I don't think that there's 30,000 contracts out there to do that, right? There's maybe like 5,000 contracts out there to do that. And that's not going to move you very far. And so, you get to see a sell like that. I don't think you want to jump on after that because the chances of them closing that back up and screwing around with it there are really, really high in this situation. Granted, these guys are just still going to be around because, there's the equity open and all of that. So there is still some business to do. Plus, isn't there, let's see here. Yeah, there is going to be University of Michigan. So they're going to be sticking around for that one. That's a pretty important number as well. Well, let's see. They might surprise me. I mean, I wouldn't be sitting here saying I think that the trade is short if I didn't think that there was a possibility that they do go for it. It's not a risk that I want to take today. My reasons might be a little bit different though, right? Like some people, they're going to not want to take on risk like that because they don't want to get stuck. And they know that this is a kind of situation where you could like get stuck in a position and then be forced to unwind it against yourself. I don't have that problem. I'm small enough that I don't have that problem, right? I think the thing that I'm more concerned about is I come in and I take a trade like that and it's a loser and then I'm just bitter all weekend long, right? Okay, so I just heard something on the news squawk there. I think that we're getting something else. So I did hear something on the news squawk, but I wasn't paying enough attention to hear what it was that they said. It kind of sounded like something like somebody was on TV saying something. But I think that push lower that we had was that and not the trading. Are you going to do anything fun this long weekend? I don't know. So we talked about. Okay, so what I'm hearing is about with Bank of Canada. Okay. Thanks. There's got to be somebody over at Financial Juice listening to me. Thanks, bro. Yeah, so I want to go camping. My thing has been, if we have the opportunity to go, I want to go camping. Part of this is I'm trying to like train and prepare, because there's a comet coming next month. You never know with comets. Comets are notoriously difficult to predict what exactly they're going to do. Like the trajectory of it, they get a pretty good idea of what the trajectory is going to be. It's kind of hard because it's difficult to get accurate measurements from here. But they have a pretty good idea of the trajectory of the comet. But like things can happen, like it gets too close and it breaks up and things like that. But if everything goes well, this could be a very, very bright comet, and it will be like, it will have a 20-degree tail, which is pretty good. That's a pretty good tail. So I'm going to want to go out and see that. So I'm getting them to go camping now so that they're trained and prepared. I think we did pretty good last time. The last time was only one overnight. If we were going to do this, I think that we would go Saturday and then stay Saturday night, Sunday night, and then come back on Monday. But I haven't done enough research on like where we would go and all of that stuff. So we got to figure that all out today. And if we don't do that, the other thing is I got to check with my uncle and see if we can fix those things on that dog kennel. So yeah, kind of thinking about it, because I was just gonna like sand this thing down and clean it up, but I'm thinking about it. I might have enough wood to just completely redo the front face, and then I could use dowels, and that would keep it more straight, and then I wouldn't have to do as much finishing work. I don't know. It's only like a 1/16 of an inch lips, so I think that sanding probably should be the best way to do that. I don't want to waste that good wood. Bill Ackman is on a tweet spree this morning. Watch. CNN fact checks Kamala's claim that she made it clear on the debate stage in 2020 that she opposed banning fracking. And then CNN shows the clip of her on the debate stage. Yeah. Okay. Okay, so here's somebody. Ben Mercedes. I don't know who that is, but he looks like a lefty. Looks like he's from California. No, actually, no, I don't know what that means. You can put little icons next to your name? What's that about? I want an eagle. How do I get an eagle? Anyways, Dana Bash and CNN are throwing every Trump talking point at Harris and Waltz word for word, and they're handling it perfect and hitting it out of the park. I couldn't ever imagine Trump sitting down for an interview remotely like this. Okay. First of all, Donald Trump does interviews and impromptu media press conferences like every day. And Trump's vice president candidate did sit down for multiple interviews that were way harder than that. But okay. But the reason I care is I want to see, are there people on the Harris side that liked her interview and are talking about it and promoting it? Okay, well, so there's the crazy sycophants are. But so far, I'm not really seeing it on Reddit. It kind of seems to me like that that it didn't go very well. I don't know, maybe it's not going to be a big enough thing to really have a huge effect on the campaign, but like since it's the first interview, I kind of feel like it's a big deal. I know, I ain't got anything else on my Twitter feed, so I guess I'll just read tweets. Here's Vivek. Kamala Harris's interview last night was a reminder that we're not running against a candidate, we're running against the system. They require a candidate they can control, which means having original ideas is a disqualification. That's exactly why we get Biden, then Kamala, and so on. Okay, but what about the interview reinforces that in your mind, Mr. Vivek? I'm not quite sure I get that one. Because it certainly seems to me like Kamala Harris is running a campaign kind of like that. That is kind of like, look, I will be really easy to control and will do whatever you tell me to do. But if I was going to look out the people out there and I was going to pick somebody that was going to, do what I told them to, like, I guess going into the conspiracy theory, like I'm a corporate or oligarch and I want to make sure that the president of the United States does what I tell them to. Kamala Harris is probably like one of the last people that I would pick to put into that position. So there was a little bit of a pullback here in the Treasury, and now we're right back down at the bottom. So let's see. I think something that's a possibility at this point, and again, okay, so there was about 10,000 contracts. So I think that there was a trade. I think I'm going to say that I was wrong. I think that I was wrong on the initial trade. I'm not going to cry about missing the trade because it was only going to be like $10 or $15 for me. And, there are risks involved with it, right? But what I'm seeing right now, and the sort of thing that my mind is going into now, is that every once in a while, and these every once in a whiles seem to be more common going into weekends, you will just get this bender of a trend that like nobody is expecting. So I'm watching this. It's gone down far enough. They are pushing into new prices. I'm kind of starting to wonder if that's at play. The liquidity is looking really good here, by the way. The liquidity is looking really good.
Block
There's that
buy.
big offer at 25. Okay, block buy coming in. That's kind of a stop for me. That is to say, like, I'm certainly not going to try and jump on it at 23. Try and sell it at 23 because it might get stuck there at 23 half for a little bit. But, and it is the end of the month. That's the other thing. Okay, so let's do our stuff. Okay. All right. So we had PCE and income numbers slightly hot. We had hawkish Fed comments yesterday. We're at lower end of range. End of month flows, but I don't have any. I would actually kind of think. Well, let's come and look. Let's come and look here real quick. If I come in and I look at the S&P 500, on a chart. Going to the beginning of August, I'm going to say we are slightly higher. So if there was any major rebalancing to be done, and it's probably not major, it would probably be sell equities, buy treasuries. But I don't have enough there, so I'm going to say end of month flows, but no imbalance known. We're going into a 3-day weekend. Okay. So, you know what? I was just doing that on my thing. I did that wrong. Undo. I'm gonna undo this. Right here. Come back over here. Undo. CCCC. Insert. There we go. Did it the right way. With multiple cursors. All right. Anyways. So I do see the possibility of a strong trend forming. But just realize, I'm not saying like this is a high possibility. I'm not really sure what the probability would be of this sort of setup happening. When it happens, it tends to be like a freak thing that is really difficult to predict. So, but that does mean that we should stay vigilant here. Now remember, the big order went out at 23. So I could maybe put a note there. No, don't put notes in the columns very often anymore. Probably should do more of that. Okay, let's see here. What's Jason Furman saying here? PCE inflation data came in very close to expectations and for the month just at the Fed's target. Eileen, two perspectives. One, the 3-month numbers are the truth of where inflation is heading, and the 6 and 12-month are lagged and can be discounted. Number two, the 3-month are noisy, and whatever quirks elevated Q1 resulted on unusually low for the last 3 months. So look over the longer period. I lean towards the second perspective. I've thought underlying inflation is about 2.5 to 3%. Happy to shift to 2.5%. And also with the soft labor market, actual inflation should be moving below underlying inflation, which is a forecast conditional on neutral labor markets. Aha. Okay. But I think he's basically saying that, like, what we got there, that's all very good. Right? So going back to the, the trade that we could have taken, because we could have gone short off of that news. I said, I think that the trade is short. I think that there's something else going on here, because I don't think that the market would have sold off that much on just the news. I mean, if they were going to sell off that much, they would have done it immediately. So I think something else is going on there. Now, one thing that you can have going into these is like somebody has a trade, like maybe somebody had a long trade on and they were hoping that that news was going to help them or something, but it didn't. And so now they have to puke the whole thing out, and because they can't afford to hold that risk over the weekend and yada, yada, yada. Right. So that's one thing that's going on. But or there could be another headline, but that was a pretty big move for what we're getting. I should also note there was a relatively large offer, and that's gone. Relatively large offer is gone. The liquidity is still good though. So and that's like the one of the things that I'm noticing here that has me most alarmed is that liquidity is looking really, really good today. It's better than it was yesterday. And that suggests to me that there are large players out there executing large meta orders. And then we started to get some downtrend. That's the sort of situation where that flow can continue all day. Okay, you see there's that order. It's now that they ticked down, that big order is back again at 24.5. When I have Octavius in here this morning, he would probably tell me if there was a single large order in there, or what the deal is with that one. By the way, did the spread move at all? Not really. There's maybe some flattening on the day, but it didn't really move too much from that news. The Japanese yen did move down with the treasuries, and the dollar is rising there quite aggressively. Gold is not following the treasuries here. Well, I mean, it is down, but the chart in gold looks a lot different. It is down, but it's a little weird. It's a little weird. I'm also seeing some movement in oil. So, let's see here. Barack David being retweeted by LiveSquawk. Israel and Hamas exchange list of hostages and Palestinian prisoners each side wants released in a Gaza deal. Israel officials said that while there has been no agreement yet on who will be released from each side, there has been significant progress on the issue. Gaza talks focus on nitty-gritty in hope of getting hostage ceasefire deal. My story on Axios. Let's read the story on Axios. That does seem like something that would be important for us to read. Here's Nick Timmeros. As expected, another cool inflation reading for July. The core PCE price index rose spot 1.6 in July from June. Oh, okay. The number that they gave me was spot 2, but maybe that's rounded the nearest 10th. All right, Axios. Talks continued this week in Cairo and Doha in an effort to get Israel and Hamas to agree on the details for implementing a hostage release and ceasefire in Gaza deal, U.S. and Israeli officials said. Why it matters, the White House is hoping that having these details in place and presented as part of a comprehensive package will persuade Hamas leader Yahya Sinwar and Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to compromise on some of the big issues so that the deal can go through. Israeli officials say the U.S., together with Qatari and Egyptian mediators, wants to try to get an agreement on as many practical details as possible, fill in the blanks with their own ideas on the broader deal, and present it to Israel and Hamas again as one package. U.S. and Israeli officials say they hope that when the package is ready, Hamas will see it is getting most of what it wanted, at least 6 weeks of ceasefire, hundreds of prisoners released, and the return of displaced Palestinians to their homes, an influx of humanitarian aid to Gaza, initial reconstruction, and medical treatment for hundreds of wounded Hamas militants in Egypt. Thorny issues, including Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's demand to regain full control along the Egypt-Gaza border and to monitor movement of Palestinians from southern Gaza to the north, and Hamas leader Yahya Sinwar's demand that the deal will lead to the end of the war, would be postponed to the last stage of the talks. Okay, so they're doing talks, but the two biggest issues that I don't think that either side are ever going to budge on are being left to the last second. So this is, this has been pretty typical of the Biden administration, or let's just say the U.S.'s side here in all of this, is that the U.S. is just desperate to try and get something done, and they are using every little tactic that they can to try and move them closer together. That includes, like, let's work all of these details out, and then, leave this other thing out. And then when you get to the end, there's going to be so much pressure that maybe somebody will cave. But I don't think it's going to work out that way. So I am still doubtful. Reading this, you might think, oh, so maybe there will be a deal. But what I'm reading makes me still very, very doubtful. Let's see here. The political hot potatoes will be left for the end, and then the U.S. will likely put forward an updated and final bridging proposal to the parties and face them with a decision. God. There's like a lot more to that story. You can go to Axios and read if you want, but I don't think that we need to go into this episode. Because that they're just kind of, now they're talking about the context. And I expect you to know the context. You know, it's kind of interesting. I was watching this thing yesterday about like the difference between Western thinking and Asian thinking. Like Asian, primarily Japan and China. And the Asian thinking has a lot more to do with like the relationships between things and like the holistic picture and the context. So like I would think that an Asian reader would want to read about all of those kind of context things more rather than like what is the focus of the piece like I just did. But I don't want to spend too much attention on a bunch of details that won't be relevant to us. Oh, Stexenhammer, I haven't seen him on Twitter in a while. Watching the CNN Kamala interview, 3 things come to mind. 1, she has no idea what she's talking about. 2, she does not intend to actually discuss policy, only slogans and empty words. 3, she's psychotic. Well, that seems like a little bit of a biased comment. Not that I'm saying that he's wrong or anything like that. It's just that, like, it doesn't help me really gauge, you know, what the general public will actually get from that interview, or if it will affect the general public or not, because that's probably what I'm going to think when I watch it too. Right? But I guess that the people on the right are finding things to attach to in the interview to really, you know, like, it doesn't seem to me that the right is like, you know, I hope that not very many people watch this interview, because I'm afraid that just kind of the media, you know, like maybe somebody that's an unengaged voter goes and watches it, and they come with a more positive view of Kamala Harris because they don't know everything that's going on. But I'm not seeing that from it actually kind of seems to me like they want you to go and watch the interview because you will also think that it's super bad. Now let's minimize that so we can see it. Now, by the way, we like had the big buy at 23. We're a little bit above that, and we've been building volume out more at 24. Although it's been like a 3-tick range instead of, well, I guess you could call it a 5-tick range instead of a 3-tick range. But I digress. That is kind of like, okay, maybe there was another headline that I kind of missed that pushed us down, but now it's probably going to sit here and not move a whole lot until the Michigan numbers. That's kind of what it's saying to me now. Like that scenario where it like turns into a real bender. We're not completely out of the woods yet, but that one looks significantly less likely now. Here, like what, 10 minutes later. Okay, more from Jason Furman. Even if monthly inflation picks up a decent amount from its pace over the last 3 months, it could still come in below the FOMC's 2.8% forecast for 2024. Yeah, but you want inflation to come back to 2%. How do you get that to happen? Because I'm kind of seeing something that's like, inflation's not coming down to 2%, but if we don't do something now, we will probably fall into a recession. So like, we save the recession, but then we avoid the recession, but then we still don't have inflation down? That would be a problem, I think. That would be a problem. Which is to say, I don't think that the average voter is expecting to endure another 4 years of current circumstances. Okay, I am seeing a big sell there in oil. This is a big sell there in oil. Okay, headline here from First Squawk: OPEC Plus is likely to proceed with a planned gradual oil production increase from October. 6 OPEC Plus sources say. That would certainly be worthy of some selling in oil, and would maybe even, you could maybe even get a boost from the equities from that, but equities don't seem to be reacting yet. That could boost equities and treasuries. Let's see here. How big was that in oil? Wow, that was a whole dollar. That was a whole dollar. Mustafa. Mustafa, you need to roll. So let me tell you how you do this. Okay. Here's my calendar. Look at the last business day of the month, which is today, and then 2 days before that. So, or another way of looking at it would be what the first business day of the month, and then count back 3. Is actually probably the way we should do it algorithmically. Okay, so the first business day of the month is the 2nd. So then we count back 3 business days: Friday, Thursday, Wednesday. Wednesday is the day that you should stop trading that contract. Right? It was the September contract. So 3 business days before September, you switch. So that means we switch with treasuries. It's quarterly. So that means that we switch to December. The monthly code for December is Z. So you want to be on ZNZ24 now. If you try to put any trades into, sorry, what was it? ZN, so August is J. No, it's M or N. I forget which one it is. You know what? I thought I had the codes memorized, and I just keep having problems. ZN. Oh, U. That's right. September is U. There's a big jump. Like July is there's June and July are N and M, and then it goes to U, and it's like, why would it be U? Anyways, ZNU. If you attempted to put any orders into ZNU, your broker would probably reject them. Because holding any position at once you get to that first call, 3 business days before the first business day of the delivery month, that's first call. That means that after that point, you could be assigned for delivery if you hold a position. Now, who gets assigned for delivery is the people that have held the contract the longest. So, but your brokers will not take that chance. Essentially, they just literally won't let you trade it. So yeah, you want to roll over to Z. That was more than you needed to know, but now you know everything about that subject. So I saw some people on Reddit talking about this too, and somebody was like really concerned about being assigned and everything, right? But I think the thing that they didn't realize was like, well, that's not a thing until first call. Like the chances of you being assigned, you can't be assigned until first call. Once first call has happened, then you can be assigned. The broker will auto liquidate the trade if you're in one and are at risk of being assigned delivery. Have done it on, yeah. I think I've done that. I think I've entered a trade on the wrong month and got like auto liquidated before. Yeah. or like rejected. I don't remember what it did, but okay, Treasury's shooting back up here. That's very interesting. The way that this is happening really looks to me like the inverse law coming in here, right? Like we haven't had nearly as much volume to the long side as we did on the short side, but it does look like that short side meta order, it finished, and as soon as it finished, somebody came in with the buy, and because the liquidity had not been healed, their impact was greater. It's pushing it back up to unchanged, despite not a very big change in cumulative delta. It was about 10K down and about 6K up. I asked Tick, who is Tick Trader? Is that like another YouTube influencer? Because I'm a little concerned if there's somebody else on there on YouTube live streaming and answering questions like that, and they told you to still trade the September contract. A little concerned. That's like, hey bro, maybe we should have a little bit of a chat, because like we have a responsibility to these people, and you've got to know what you're talking about, and you can't be telling them that. That's a pretty like, actually I'd go even further. If you should know those things if you're going to be trading futures, okay? Like no shame or anything, but if you guys are listening to this and you didn't know what I just told you, you need to go to the CME website. They have education over at the CME website. Do like the basic futures education on the CME website. There's Gary Norden has a Yellow Jacket course that is free, that kind of gives you the basics of the rules. And your broker will have some information as well. You need to go and watch that education and make sure you understand those things before you trade treasuries. Granted, I think I pretty much just told you like the major thing that's unique with futures that you need to know about that, which is the way that it rolls. Now, I guess the one other piece of information that I would need to give you is that that's only for the treasuries. It changes based on the instrument, okay? For the equities, and maybe one of the reasons why somebody like Tick Trader might screw that up is because they trade equities. Tick Trader is a funding company. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Somebody over there needs to be given a talking to. Probably the reason they're screwing up, Mustafa, is because they're almost everything that they do is with equity traders. Equities are still going to be on the September contract for a while. So the way that it works for the equity indexes is it's 3 business days before the contract ends. So, not the contract end, the options. Okay, like the options expire 3rd Friday, right? Options expire 3rd Friday. Monday, the futures expire on that same day. Okay, the futures expire on that same day. So Monday would be like when it settles, because man, I know too many of these tiny little details and I'm getting stuck up on these details. I apologize, but I don't know any other way to give it to you, because I haven't like thought all of this through and like here's the details I should give you and not. Okay, but the contract like expires on Friday, but it actually settles based on the opening price on Monday. So like if you are holding the contract when it closes on Friday, the price that you get is actually what it opens with on Monday. So anyways, so that's why you go, there's that, and then 3 business days before that, the 20th, the 19th, the 18th. And so Wednesday, the 18th is going to be when everybody in the equity indexes rolls over, if not before that. Okay. Now, I don't think that the assignment is quite the same over because it's a cash settled future. So like the risk of getting assigned and everything aren't very good. But still, that is when the volume is going to switch over. That is when your broker is going to tell you to start trading the new one, etc., etc., etc. So they're probably thinking, oh, we've got 2 more weeks left of this contract. Yeah, no, it's totally fine. He doesn't know that for the treasuries, it's based on the first business day of the contract month. So you're going to want to look for your particular commodity. Some of these, like oil, it's the same thing. It's, like they're going to be switching. Like I'm on September now for oil. Actually, I take that back. Maybe it's more days than that in oil, because we rolled oil over maybe even last week. But I don't trade oil, so I don't know which day it is. But whatever instrument you're trading, like say you decide, okay, I'm gonna become an oil trader now. I want to switch instruments. First thing you should do is find out the settlement procedures and the rollovers and all of those details. Especially in a commodity, because the reason the market is there is for those hedgers and those people that do need to deliver and buy and all of those sorts of things. And so understanding all of the rules around that is going to give you an insight into what they're going to do and how the market is going to behave as a result. I tell you, next week there's going to be more trading opportunities in the treasuries than there has been next week, because you're going to be, the summer is over. You're going to be getting a lot of relevant economic news at the beginning of the month, especially like non-farms, et cetera, right? And the contracts tend to move more at the beginning of the contract. So we've just switched, right? So I'm expecting more trading opportunities next week. Okay, so more from Jason Furman. The most important data in the personal income release is the numbers on consumer spending. It was up 4% in real terms in the month of July, consistent with the strong retail sales data. Even if spending is flat in August and September, PCE would still be very strong at 3%. Real consumer spending is getting further and further above CBO's pre-pandemic forecast. At this point, it appears consumer spending will be strong in quarter 3. Lower interest rates should bring some relief for borrowers. But beyond that, I remain nervous about the ability of consumers to permanently power this expansion. But they have been proving me wrong to date. Proving me wrong to date. So that's some interesting insight on that. I that's kind of a similar like feeling that I've been getting, that it's kind of like I get these signs that the consumer is strapped, but then when we get the official number, it kind of, they're not. What have we got going on here? I guess I should double check over here. Alright. Consumer has infinite debt to access. They're not strapped, but they're defaulting more frequently. So let's look that up. Delinquency rate on consumer loans, all commercial banks, is what I first thing that I get when I do a search. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So this is one of those things that drives me absolutely crazy. Okay. is that, like, you got a lot of people out there. Let me go back. Let me go back a second, okay? The journalism industry is like a complete sham these days. It used to be that you had people that knew what they were talking about, that they sat and all they did was study that particular subject, and they knew their stuff. And you know what? There are still some journalists out there like that. Like CNBC is pretty good at this sort of stuff, right? Like they have their guy that's like the auto industry expert. They have their real estate industry expert. And those people, they report specifically on that thing and they know everything that there is to know about that, right? But what has happened is that blogging has taken over the journalism world. And a lot of journalists have basically become bloggers. And so you get all of these people out there spreading information, sharing stuff on Twitter, etc., etc., etc. They don't look at those numbers every day. They don't dedicate their life to understanding that data, but rather they've just seen something that tells them that that particular data point is important at that time. And so they're saying something about it when that's like the first time that they've ever seen the chart. And so when you get that, you get people tend to say a lot of things that are like strictly not true. So I was experienced. I'm maybe going into this too much because I'm a little triggered because there was somebody was arguing with me on Reddit the other day, and it was just absolutely hilarious because they were saying like, no, Donald Trump did not help with immigration. Immigration went up under Trump. And the only reason why immigration was so high under Joe Biden was because people were fleeing their countries because of, economic insecurity caused by the pandemic. Absolutely ridiculous, okay? Donald Trump implemented a stay in Mexico policy in January of 2019. That springtime, the usual spike that you see still happened, but it then precipitously declined. And so by the end of the summer, there was hardly anybody coming across the border anymore. Why would you have less people coming across the border in August and September than in January? That makes no sense. I'll tell you why. Because the stay in Mexico policy worked. And then what happened? Joe Biden got put in, he rescinded all of that, and it just opened the floodgates, right? And so they got this person arguing with it, and they're like, well, immigration went up in 2019. Well, yeah, if all you're looking at is the yearly data, okay, but I bet you $1 million, not $1 million, but I bet you that this Redditor, that was the first time that they had even looked up that data, that they went and they did a Google search and then they went and they found something that was, in line with what they think. Now, granted, we just did a Google search to pull this data series up. This isn't a data series that I look at every day, but it's not the first time that I've seen this kind of a data series. Something that I find interesting about this data series is that it looks almost exactly the same as the delinquency rate seems to follow very closely to the total amount of debt that consumers have. Or like, you look at consumer debt as a percent of disposable income, or something like that, right? They look the same. And so what you see here is, okay, delinquency rate has gone, it's up, it's higher than it was before the pandemic, but it is not even really high historically. It's not even really high historically. So, they're not strapped, but they're defaulting more frequently. So they are defaulting more frequently, but it's not high from a historical perspective. And so I think that Uzi's first comment there is the most accurate. Like, consumer has infinite debt to access. Well, it's not infinite debt to access, but let's just say that most consumers are perfectly okay. They have plenty of room to take on more debt, don't they? So that's interesting. And that kind of is something that kind of suggests to me that, like, maybe they could continue to spend, especially those people on the higher end of it, right? It's like a junkie slapping around his kids because he couldn't buy meth on a Tuesday. Yeah, I guess it is. It's just like it's a larger thing that I see. You get all of these people, they think that being informed is having the right data sources. I'm informed because I watch CNN. No, you're not. No, you're not. Being informed is that you know all of the facts surrounding an issue. Being informed means that you're going in and you're looking at that subject like every day. Like we come in and we look at finance stuff every day. We're pretty highly informed about what is going on with finance and politics. Okay? And it just absolutely drives me nuts, pisses me off when you get all of these people that they think, but I watch CNN and I can do a Google search and go and find this piece of, and go and cherry pick this piece of information that seems to support my point when it doesn't at all. And you just end up with this populace that is constantly being yanked around by false information. And it's both sides too, right? Like the reason why I kind of went into the junkie thing is because I didn't want it to seem like a partisan thing, right? Because I gave you one thing, the border, where liberals are kind of like goal seeking and, misinterpreting data because they don't actually look at that data very often or understand it. Conservatives do the same thing with consumer debt. I continue to see people on conservatives news sites say that like debt levels are like at all-time highs and yada yada. Well, the total amount of debt, yes, but like debt as a percent of disposable income, no. And so you got these conservative blogs out there spreading this basically straight up lie that like we're on some sort of unsustainable debt binge amongst consumers that would scare them out of the markets when that is not accurate at all. I watched the Seth Trading Network. Yes, you see, if you watch Speculator Seth, then you must be informed, right? No, you're not doing more. Yeah, you're not. You know what, Uzi? I thought at first that maybe you were misinterpreting the data, but it was like, okay, I looked at the data, then I looked back at what he actually said. They are. I mean, you said they're defaulting more frequently. Right, and I said, well, but what is it on a relative basis? Okay, well, on a relative basis, it's not that much. But, you didn't get that specific. But I feel the need to get that specific. Yeah, you did not misinterpret it. You did not contextualize it, though. Yeah. I did not contextualize the data to make it seem like a rise in consumer default rates is actually... Well, it's not meaningless. No, it's not meaningless for sure. Like, so let's say the 2 points here. One is consumers still have the ability to take on a substantial amount of debt, right? That's the first thing. But the second thing is that they have taken on a lot of debt already post-pandemic. So this quote-unquote spending spree is being driven by debt. And that is very critical to note. It is the rise in debt that has been driving this. If you continue to see interest rates high where they are, that's not going to last forever. And then where is your growth going to come from? And then that's when you get a recession, right? It's just that like the point at which that would like really be a concern is like super far out there. But that's certainly the trajectory that we're on. Because we need to see the economy growing and people spending without them taking on debt, right? Because when we're seeing them taking on debt, what that means is that the spending is just coming at a cost of somewhere else. This is actually a really weird subject that I don't think people understand. Let me pontificate here a little bit. Not that I wasn't already pontificating. So here's this thing, is you've got this pie. People talk about there's a pie, and we only get so much of the pie. And that's not accurate. You can't come in and say, well, because Elon Musk owns this much of the pie, that doesn't mean that you have to take some of the pie away from Elon in order for you to have any pie, because you can make the pie bigger. That is accurate. That is one way of looking at it. But let's try and go a little bit deeper. There's two pies. There's two pies, guys. One pie is actual goods, right? Goods and services. Okay. There is, at any given time in the economy, a limited amount of goods and services. This pie can grow. So, if you want to make more, have more wealth, you can provide better and more goods and services potentially, and be generating more wealth, right? So what's this other pie? It's money. It's money. So this is where it gets interesting, right? Because we have certain goods and services, but those goods and services are represented by money. And these two things, they change sizes, and they don't necessarily change sizes together. And the idea is that we want the money to be the same size as the goods and services, generally speaking. But there's flexibility in there. Like, so what are things that grow this thing right here? What are things that make the money supply go up? People taking on debt. That's the number one thing. You got to understand it. You want to understand our monetary system, the way that it works, why things go the way that they are. The most important thing that I think you can know, and this is kind of the weird one because it's something that I think that we've really only proven more recently and is kind of against what we were originally told, but it is empirically the proof. Money is created by banks when people take out loans. That is the primary source of money creation. The Federal Reserve is this idea that like the Federal Reserve creates the money and then he gives it to the banks, and that's not what happens. The banks give the loans out, they create the money, and then the Federal Reserve just reconciles it afterwards. The Federal Reserve can control the interest rates and everything, and that is going to change the amount of loans that the banks can give out and everything, right? Like if the interest rate is really low, then there's going to be a lot of people that can afford to do that, and they can put out a lot of loans, and so they're going to create a lot of money. Taking out loans is what creates money, folks. Okay? So what destroys money? Well, there's two primary things that destroy money. One is paying loans back. Yes, you pay loans back, but then by that point, when you pay the loan back, there's probably more people that have taken loans out. So like the money supply tends to increase over time, but when you pay the loan back, that's money coming back out of the economy. Okay. And presumably the idea is you pay that back, but you've used that to create more goods and services, and so the economy grows, right? The other thing that takes money out of the economy is taxes. When the government comes in and they tax people, that's taking money out of the economy. Okay. So now that you understand those, now you kind of sit down and you realize that, like, okay, like there is only so much money in the economy. So how is that money distributed? Well, it's the people taking out loans. So think about that for a second. you got to pay. You probably have a day job. You made money this month. Where did that money originally come from? Someone at some point took out a loan and took out debt, and then that money is coming up to you, right? So it's kind of a funny and ironic thing, because we're always told, you don't want to have debt, you want to have assets, and that's what we've been taught. That's true, but you just realize, where does the money come from? It's the people taking out debt. It's the people that are taking out debt. The reason that they tell you to not take on a lot of debt is because what they're really talking about is credit cards. And the interest rates that you get on credit cards are terrible. So you want to have as little money on your credit cards as possible, okay? But the interest rates that you get on a home loan, on a business loan, things like that, those are pretty good. And who are going to be the people that are going to get the most wealth coming to them? It's, generally speaking, it's going to be the people that are taking debt out and using that to build businesses and build things, essentially, right? Okay. Once you realize that this kind of thing is, well, it's always growing, you can get a piece of that growth by being one of those people that take out debt, as long as you use it wisely. But there's the other side of it, which is where the government takes the money out, right? So when the government comes in, what they're basically saying, they're taking money out with their taxes. What they're really saying is, we want less of the money supply to be over here and more of it to be over here. That's literally what they're doing. Is they're taking money away from rich people, corporations, a little bit from everybody, and they're giving it to their cronies. Generally speaking, it's their cronies. It's going to be people that have contractual relationships with the government to provide services to the government. That's how it goes. So it's a thing that kind of irks me that people don't understand this. They're constantly saying, oh, there's this tax for like a capital gains tax, okay? They don't understand what that actually means. They think, oh, well, yeah, the rich people, they are too rich. They should be less rich, and more of that should come to me. But that's not what's actually happening. What they're doing is they're actually reducing the amount of money supply available, and then more of the money supply that is available, that is coming back in, is going to government contractors, and not necessarily you. I mean, maybe it would be different if the Federal Reserve changed things so that they were like directly putting money into everybody's wallets. I think that would maybe be a problem too, but hey. Maybe someday it will happen. We'll see. Once you understand these things that grow, I think you look at policy a little bit differently. How can you build wealth? Provide more or better goods and services, and take out low interest loans. This is why rich people, for instance, they'll put all of their money into stocks, and then they'll take loans out against those stocks. And then you go, don't take those loans out and just use it to spend. I mean, that's where all of their income comes from. So they are going to spend, but go and build businesses with it, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, right? Yeah, they do it to avoid tax, but in the larger picture of it, that's how they get more of the money supply, right? Like there's a tax avoidance scheme to it, but it also, they're using their assets as collateral. It allows them to loan more money. It allows them to leverage themselves higher. And if they're taking that money and they're using it to fund their business, then they're going to grow faster. It's called tax optimization. This is where I think some of these things get kind of silly. Is like, okay, so a lot of people don't like this. A lot of people don't like that they are wealthy and they have all of this wealth out there, and they have too much wealth, and we can't take it away from them. Jealousy isn't a good look for policy, but it's a driving factor in human relations. Okay, so what are they going to do? They're going to tax it or whatever. Okay, well, just realize taxing is taking money out of the money supply, as they're taking more money out, and then more of the money that's coming in is going to government contractors. Basically, you're allocating more capital to the sectors of the economy that have direct relationships with the government. That's what it does. Okay. But, you know, if we want to pay down the debt, do all of these things, we do have to take money out of the economy, and we need to take more money out of the economy. And where would be the best places to take that money out of the economy? Maybe it is among the rich. So how do we do that? And there's the whole idea of a capital gains tax or unrealized gains tax, which is a dumb idea, right? That's going to be, you're going to have to sell stocks. That's going to have a very negative impact on the economy. So what do you do? And one of the things that has been proposed, like for instance by Bill Ackman, and that I actually think is an interesting idea and they should maybe explore, is, well, you should be taxed when you take out a loan against your assets and the loan is bigger than the value of the assets. Then that amount in excess, that's what should be taxed. Well, okay, sure, but you realize that all you're doing is you're creating money and then immediately thereafter destroying a little tiny portion of it in response, right? Like what actually is the point of that at that point? You know, like the net effect that it would have on the money supply would just be like, don't allow them to take as big of a loan, right? Would have the same impact. Okay, once you kind of have that framework in place, then we say, okay, government debt is too high. Don't think of it as government debt is too high. Like, because it's all about money creation and money supply, right? A problem is that the money supply is too big relative to the goods and services being put out in the economy. If that happens, that's a problem, because you get what? Inflation. That's what causes inflation. Okay. But there can be a situation, and this is kind of what the what are these idiots called? Modern monetary theorists. This is what they're kind of saying, is like, hey, you know what? We could be stimulating the economy and putting a lot of stimulus into the economy, but also be taking out a lot out of the economy, a lot of money supply out of the economy with taxes, right? And that shouldn't create inflation. Okay, true. But there's this other problem. What's this other problem? Too much of the economy is being allocated to the government, okay? Government is not very effective. Government tends to be doing things that the private market wouldn't do on their own because they're not actually profitable. So a larger percentage of the economy that's being taken up by the government, the less productive your economy is going to be. So, you see, you're listening, conservatives, the problem is not just that there's too much money supply relative to the goods and services. That was a problem. The problem is also that the government is just too large. That the percentage of government expenditures as a percentage of GDP is too high. When that's happening, how do you solve that? If you're coming in and you're just taxing the wealthy more, that's reducing the money supply out there, but that's not really going to change the percentage of the GDP that the government. In fact, it's going to increase the percentage of the economy that the government has, because that gives the government the ability to print even more and spend even more. So in the end, if the problem is, and the problem is that the government is too big, the only way that you do that is you shrink the size of government. You have the government spend less. That's the only way that you can do it. Because doing all this stuff with taxes, this is just fudging numbers. You're taking some out here, they're putting more in over here. The net effect is the money supply stays the same, but government grows more. Well, I think that I said you're paying attention to this to conservatives because I think that this is what conservatives want to know, and they agree with this, right? Maybe I should really be, but I don't think that they understand it in that kind of strategic level. Like, really, I should be pointing at the liberals, and I should be saying, okay, but you realize that the net effect of the policies y'all are proposing, it's not, you think, oh, well, if there's too much government debt, then we just need to tax people more and reduce the size of the debt, right? But that's not the actual problem. The actual problem is government's too big. More of the economy that the government is taking, that's that pie again, right? Because you got this pie, and you're saying 33% of it is going to go to government. And that leaves how much for the rest of us? And it's not just because we want more of that money supply. It's that you can take that money supply and turn around and use it to create more goods and services and grow the actual absolute size of the economy overall without creating inflation. But we can't. Or at least people are struggling to do that more so than they did 20, 30 years ago because the government is taking up too much of the economy. And that's putting a cap on our productivity and our growth. So there we go. That's my rant for Friday. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope you have a good weekend. We could probably end the stream right there, but we still have, oh, no, that was 45. We still have an hour and 15 minutes. I don't know if that was any good. Did you enjoy that, or was it a little bit too disjointed? Because I was just winging that. Let's see here. The market year tweets commodity bull just getting started as debt deficits, demographics, reverse globalization, AI, and net zero policies all inflationary. Bird said he enjoyed it good. So when I'm asking that, I'm kind of saying, like, when I pause and I switch things, do you get lost, or like, were you with me all the way? Because I understand the way that my brain works is maybe a little bit different from what you're used to, and sometimes you'll just tune out, you know. Or you get lost. But if you were with me the whole way, then good. I think one of the things that I'm always thinking about the most is like, okay, I say this thing. There might be these tiny little details in there that need to be refined. It kind of depends on whether the listener cares about that and gets hung up on that or not. And I'm worried that, like, I'm going to say something and somebody's going to say, well, but wait a second. Is that actually true? Or what's, and so now they're thinking about that when I've already moved on. Right. And that's really likely to happen with a subject like money supply, right? Here's Chicago PMI, actual 46.1, forecast 44.8. Oh, okay. So first of all, for some reason, when I saw, there's University of Michigan, I forgot that we had Chicago PMI. The reaction to that would have been 3 minutes ago because that one is released early. But I don't see much of a market reaction to it. Does not look to me like the market is really cares all that much. And in fact, while I did that whole spill, the market has pretty much gone sideways, which means that I called, like, when is the time to start yapping like that? Made a good call. We are going to need to key in here in 15 minutes, though, because then we're going to get the University of Michigan, and we'll see where that goes. And again, going into a 3-day weekend, you can get weird stuff, right? So should be on our toes for that. Hopefully, it's like, well, not hopefully. A likely scenario is that those numbers, especially the inflation expectation numbers, all come in line with the estimates, and then the market pretty much dies down and people shut down for the day. That could happen. Or could be a big surprise and it causes a trend, and then people get stopped out and it turns into a huge bender going into the weekend because people don't like to hold those positions going into the 3-day weekend. So you can get some strange unravelings and so forth that you gotta be on the lookout for. Oh my gosh, I'm browsing around here and there's this post on r/day trading that's like a post that I've thought about making many times, and it seems to be doing really well, and I'm like, if I posted this, it wouldn't be doing well. What is the post? It says, "Stop it. No one cares. Recently, there are more and more useless posts. Let's be real. No one cares about your big win or loss for one day. And stop crying and whining about how you made blah 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 mistake and you are so regretful. And stop asking if day trading is legit or how long till you'll start making money. And stop asking questions that you already know the answer to. If you want to discuss tools, fine, brokers, good, specific strategies, perfect, but this is not a place to post your daily journal review and talk about how stupid of mistakes you made and how you are crying on the bed trying to fix it. Leave that to your trading journal, please." Yeah, he's right. That the place to do that is in this stream's chat and the certain channels of the Discord. Right, like that's for personal interaction. On Reddit, it's just more noise. I'm interested in you made or lost money, and we can talk about it. But don't post it on Reddit, please. That subreddit's already bad enough. Yeah. And here comes a mod reminder that the posts that go to the top on this sub are reflective of what gets upvoted. And unfortunately, it is usually garbage posts that technically don't break rules but are useless. I see garbage posts about trading being hard being upvoted like hell because people love consoling bad trades. This is true on every platform. The worst trading content usually has the most views. I know a ton of amazing 7-figure traders that have maybe a couple thousand subscribers on YouTube and get less than 1,000 views because people want flashy stuff with no real substance. Regardless of platform, remember that 99% of people don't make money trading, just like most people posting, and simply cannot get modded away. True value comes in the form of nuggets over time, regardless of where you look. I wouldn't post on Reddit at gunpoint. No. I'm addicted, man. I can't help it. To argue with people on Reddit, I still enjoy doing it, man. It's an ADHD thing. ADHD people tend to be argumentative because they get so much they get so much of the chemical from arguing. It goes back to that thing that I was saying last Wednesday, is that like the medication, I tell you what, man, I am so much nicer and more sensitive and entertaining person to be around when I'm not on my medication. Nah, I really don't think it's ego, man. I don't think you understand. The act of arguing on Reddit does something for me on a biochemical level that it doesn't do for you. For you, you go on Reddit and you go and you argue with somebody like that, and all you're probably going to feel is just awful about it. Like, for me, I go in and I do that. It gives me it gives me chemicals that gets my brain engaged in a way that it doesn't do with anything else. Yeah. Because, you know, I will go in and go super deep into the commenting, even if it's something that I'm not sure about what the answer is, right? It's kind of hard to describe to somebody if I don't know the thing that grabs them, because I think that most people have something like that, and are maybe not even consciously aware of why. I'm better than, oh, okay. It is. Being an asshole is a disorder, I'm telling you, man. Listen, go start taking 5 milligrams of Adderall every day. See how it changes how you behave. Changes how you behave significantly. In good ways. There are some side effects too that kind of really suck. And one of those side effects is you're not as nice. You're in let's go commando mode every second of the day. And no, I don't think that's true at all, Lucy. If there was somebody sitting in, I know that that's not true. If there's somebody here, they're gonna argue with me, I will just keep pushing them, and it doesn't matter if they're gonna get mad and they're gonna start a physical altercation or what. How often? I remember as a kid it happened. Well, I wouldn't necessarily say physical altercations. I remember when I was in second grade, I had an issue with some kids and we fought pretty much every day. But that's something different, right? So I don't remember very many situations where it was like you really would like get hurt. Okay. But situations where you'd be uncomfortable and maybe even scared, right? It doesn't stop you at all. In fact, I think to some extent it makes it worse. Like when I was having, so I'm saying that like, okay, in second grade, I don't know why those kids started fighting with me like that. But I was, we would fight. I would hurt them, they would hurt me. Like, I was getting bruises and whatnot every day, right? And I would come back every day, ready to do it again. didn't deter me in the least bit, man. But like, I don't think you understand, man. This is exactly the reason why life outcomes for people with ADHD tend to be so bad. Because those sorts of things that would deter a normal person, that a normal person would be like, oh, this one time I got beat up for doing that, so I'm not going to do that anymore, right? ADHD person doesn't learn. ADHD person will still say the stupid thing. person will still do the stupid thing. They will, after they do it, go, oh, that was stupid, I shouldn't have done it. But they'll still do it. That's like literally what the disorder is. Were you fighting over technical and I don't really know what. I don't think that there was anything. I think it was just like bullying and you know, I think it's one of those things where it's like I think part of it is, you know, you try and forget it, and so I've intentionally forgotten all the details and everything. But I think that it was like there was bullying. I'm not going to put up with it. It escalates, and then once you're to getting into physical altercations, then it just kind of becomes a self-perpetuating thing, right? And it's one of those things that like, well, adults weren't there to see what's going on, to say this group or this group is more at fault and whatnot, and to do anything to stop it. But like so again, this is a problem that I haven't had because I've been medicated. I wasn't medicated in 2nd grade, right? But then 3rd or 4th grade, or I got medicated, and then those weren't a thing anymore, right? But I know some people that, you know, like they were never medicated, and these are the people that like they'll get fired from job after job after job. They do a really good job, they do really good work, but they just can't resist telling their boss that they're stupid or acting in a way that makes people uncomfortable. And they know better. They know that because they've been fired before, but they do it job after job after job. That is ADHD, man. It's a disorder with executive functioning, and that means that the processes that you use to moderate your behavior, to say, like, this is like your mind's eye and your mind's voice. You're coming into a situation, and so like I can remember the first time, honestly, when I first was able to access my mind's eye without medication. It was like, well, at least one that stands out to me was like being at a concert and somebody was kind of causing problems because they were, you know, it was crowded and everything, and they didn't want to let us through and, you know, get closer to where our friends were. And I sat and I saw it, and I was like, well, where does this end up going? These people are probably continue to be assholes, and or it could escalate. So probably the better thing is to just move to a completely different section of the concert. And so that's what I did, right? Yeah, here's sentiment. A little bit of a buy there. So 1 year inflation is 2.8 versus 2.9, and 5 year is 3%. So that's pretty close to in line. And the sentiment number is a little bit lighter than expected, 67.9 versus an expected number 68.1. So yeah, if people on Reddit could push a button and a hand would come out of the computer and punch you in the face, right? It wouldn't change a damn thing. I would still do and say all of the things that I do. Almost guarantee it. It's almost compulsive. Even when you're on the medication, because it's like certain habits are still ingrained. And again, like the rise that you get from doing it becomes stronger. I wish I understood more. Why is it the feistiness? So like it suppresses your limbic system, but to me it feels like that, like suppressing your limbic system just suppresses overall how much you care and think about other people. And I'm like, shouldn't that suppress all of your emotions? Shouldn't that also mean that you get less of a rise out of fighting with people? But it doesn't do that. Because it's like having a little bit too much adrenaline all the time is really what it is. Do you fight with? No, I don't actually, but I'm not. I don't think I'm nice. We don't fight, but I'm not nice. You get what I mean? It's like we won't fight, but you know, if they want or need something or whatever. So like how what would be a specific example? Okay, like if the kids are fighting, okay, Ethan wants a toy, and it's Asher's toy, or Asher had it first, or whatever the deal, because I'm, you know, trying to teach them property rights and everything. It's not like, oh, you have to share. You've had it for a while, so now you have to know. Doesn't. I just tell them tough luck, because I'm, you know, you can't have it. Too bad. I might even kind of like try and make a funny thing. Maybe, you know, it's kids, but like that's not nice. Shouldn't the thing that you should do is be like, oh, I'm sorry, but you can't have that right now because it's his. I don't do that. That is not my first instinct. When I'm off the medication, it's my first instinct. Right? Do you see what I mean? So it's not like we fight, but I'm not nice. Oh, are you argumentative with your wife? No. Well, we talk about things. Well, it certainly could be like that, but women are very what is the word? Agreeable. My wife is very agreeable, so you know that doesn't happen. Probably has more to do with her than me, right? No, I know you could be like that, but you're not. Like argumentative with your wife? No. Never been. Like I said, so I think we can do it even more directly, right? Like I think we can we can talk about on the stream, right? Like if somebody comes in on the stream and asks me a stupid question, probably the best thing for the stream is for me to say, oh, okay, well, here's what's actually going on, and you know, be understanding and helpful to them, and that might, you know, create a new relationship and bring somebody in that stays in the stream, right? But how often is it that I say, well, that's really dumb and shouldn't be going in that direction, right? Like if somebody comes in and asks, how likely is it that you can make a full-time living from day trading, right? What am I going to do? I'm going to give you the full, hard, unfiltered truth, and I'm going to try and convince you that if you really aren't in this for just the joy of it, that you need to quit now, right? And I'm going to be as brutal as possible. And is that really actually the best way to do it? Can't I let people down easier? But that's never my first instinct. You go back to last Wednesday. Was it not what Wednesday? Last Thursday, Friday? Last Thursday and Friday? No, it was definitely Thursday. Because Thursday was when we did the thing and it was in the morning. You see the difference? Well, yeah. So there's this other side of it, which is like, okay, so because I have the executive functioning, if something's really actually going to cause a problem, then I see it and I don't do it, right? No, I don't think you. Yeah. So. Yeah, I guess the thing that you're missing there when you say it's not a medical condition if it doesn't apply to certain people in your life is like now I'm on the medication all the time, and so I don't, and I've learned to deal with it in a way that most people haven't, right? So I have a strong degree of control over it, right? Just because I have the strong degree of control over it doesn't mean that I get a chemical boost or whatever from certain behaviors and will enjoy doing certain things more than other certain things, right? So, when I was saying, for instance, like, oh, if somebody on Reddit could reach out and punch me, I wouldn't behave any differently. Well, being on medication, and if it's going to be like objectively harmful to me, then that's a different thing. But if I was unmedicated, yeah, it wouldn't stop me at all. You get what I mean? Yeah, you don't like hurting or disappointing people you love or care about. Strangers are less risky. Well, but no, but that's the thing is that I do think on the medication. So it's like again, it's so you're taking it the opposite direction, right? It's like there's this neutral point, right? Okay, you're not doing anything harmful or hurtful to that person, okay? I'm not saying when you're on medication that you want to come in and be mean and do something harmful to them, right? What I'm saying is that when you're on the medication, like there's some sort of a sensitive, caring thing that you can do for them that would, that would really help them and would help your relationship and all of these sorts of things. And when I'm on medication, those things do not come to me, right? I am keyed in, this is a life and death situation all the time sort of a thing. Is the way that I am, usually, mostly. So I say I'm too serious, I'm too keyed in all the time. I might not be keyed in on the trade that I'm supposed to be looking at all the time, but you notice like the amount of focus and drive that I will put into explaining something or talking about something is not normal, right? There's just like too much on the edge of your seat all the time is what it does. And that could be, I think that this is maybe a problem that men might deal with on their own without an ADHD condition. But like when you're on medication, it can be a real problem. You're pretty in line with the average, maybe. Well, like that's the thing is that when, well, so let's see here. Does medication make you more egotistic? See, like I think that egotistical is the wrong word, because egotistical to me is a opinion about yourself and how important you are to the world and to the people around you. That to me is egotistical. And I don't think that I am very much that at all. I kind of feel like that by and large that most people shouldn't give a crap about me. And I think that ADHD people in general, they kind of have that feeling. Like, because they're so used to screwing up and being disappointed and being humbled, right? But self-centered, I think so, right? Like, you become more concerned about what you're doing and what you want and what you need at that time compared to other people. What is trying to correct strangers on the internet to the point to which it could be arguably considered narcotic, if not trying to tell the world how smart and correct you are? So what drives it is the let's try and figure out what drives it here. Do you spend an inordinate amount of time doing repetitive tasks and or like keeping to consistent schedules? Like, obviously you're a guy, but like if you were a girl, you see yourself knitting, for instance, right? So that is the sorry, what is this chemical? Serotonin. That's like serotonin sorts of things, right? Do you find yourself having a drive to do dangerous things? Like, when you were a kid, did you do dangerous things? I have a desire to do dangerous things or to seek out new things. No. How do you enjoy doing difficult things? Okay, you did join the military. That's true. Do you enjoy doing difficult things? You know, like, are you the kind of person that you go into the military and they made you do something really physically hard, but then afterwards you're like, okay, but I did enjoy that, right? Okay, so then you probably are norepinephrine. So, like, the way that it kind of works is there are neurochemicals in your brain, right? And these neurochemicals set in the cleft between cells, and these neurochemicals moderate whether a particular neurological impulse propagates. So it's like, if it's not a strong enough of an impulse, then it doesn't get passed on, right? So there are different amounts of these chemicals, and these chemicals are in different parts of your brain. So, and are triggered and or moderate different types of behavior, right? So norepinephrine is a precursor to adrenaline and moderates more the parts of your brain that need to be engaged when you are in a life-threatening situation. Like, that you're in an altercation or you're in a firefight, but you win the military, right? Okay. This is like the thing that pushes the adrenaline, right? The dopamine side is the one that will drive people to seek new things. This is, you release dopamine in anticipation of a reward, but dopamine is also released by new novel things, and this is what causes people to seek out, go to different, like if you were a hunter-gatherer, right? You'd go and find new places, possibly new sources of food, explore around, etc., right? Norepinephrine and dopamine deficiency together can lead to risk seeking. So, like those adrenaline junkies are usually deficient in norepinephrine and dopamine, essentially. So like what happens is when you're deficient in one neurochemical, you will tend to enjoy the activities that give you more of that chemical and restore the balance, essentially. Okay. The people that are low in serotonin, the serotonin is governed more by things that you do consistently every day. So people that are low in serotonin really like to do the same thing every day and enjoy to do repetitive tasks. Like a female that's lower in serotonin loves to knit, right? Yeah, it's interesting how you've made behavior a chemical analysis. Most people say, oh, it's nice, this person, whatever, but you delve deep into the chemical reasons why people are the way that they are. Or yes, but basically chemical underpinnings behind certain personality traits, right? Yes. Okay. So the reason that I go into that is like, okay, so if you enjoy doing a certain type of thing, why is it that some people enjoy going on roller coasters and other people do not? It's because the people that enjoy going on roller coasters have less of those kinds of neurotransmitters in their brain. Going on the roller coaster causes more of those neurotransmitters to be released, and it becomes more, and it's more pleasurable for them. Right? So kind of the thing to get into is like, okay, so which of those categories am I? Once you know what kind of category you are, you can kind of get into some of the things that like you might do that you don't like about yourself, right? So as an example, you don't doom scroll too much. You get that phone in your hand, you start watching TikTok or Instagram, and you just can't stop scrolling. You just can't stop. You know that you should be doing something else, but you can't stop scrolling. I know everybody has a problem with it, but you have a problem with it to where it's like having immeasurable negative impact on your life, and you can't stop. Why is that? Because you're deficient in dopamine. Okay, now that you know that, now you can create strategies to help you deal with it. Now you can come in and you can say, okay, I'm doom scrolling. It's the novelty that I am chasing. So what I should do is I should put the phone down and I should go and do some novel thing elsewhere, and to satisfy that itch, and then get me into a place where I can focus and I can go and do the thing that I'm supposed to be doing. Right? So now you can build coping strategies around it. So it's not to make yourself sound smart. It's so that you can actually deal with your own behavioral tendencies that you don't like. Right? Yeah, toxic superfood. It also could tell you about things that you might eat that might help you better manage those balances. Yes. You're not getting enough of the amino acids that you need for these neurochemicals. Then your brain can only make so many of them, and it's going to skimp out on one of them. And if you get enough of the nutrients, then it will make more of it, and you'll be more in balance, and you won't have as much of those problems. Yeah, see, everybody has a problem with doom scrolling because dopamine is a really, really strong chemical. But the people that are deficient in dopamine is really hard, right? Like as an example, like you might doom scroll, but a person that's has untreated ADHD might continually lose jobs because they're actually doom scrolling when they're supposed to be working. You just be obsessed with knowing things first, but there's where no one really share. But that's why I'm saying you're probably more norepinephrine, which is kind of like me, but just not to an ADHD level. So, like, when you have to do something difficult or you're learning something and you have to focus, right? You release that norepinephrine, and that norepinephrine allows you to focus in on that thing. And then you end up working on that thing for a long time and getting the task done or whatever the deal is, right? And that's norepinephrine. Norepinephrine is also released in response to social praise. That's another interesting aspect of it. Is that people that are norepinephrine deficient tend to be more people pleasers. They want to do things for people to get the social gratification for it, right? So that's kind of where it's. So going back to me, yeah, you're very mission oriented. Yeah. So what you're really saying is that you suffer from the same problem I do, maybe, in being too keyed in all the time. Just you're not ADHD and you're not on medications. So what I'm saying is, like, take that you're very mission oriented, right? And like double it, right? What kind of negative impacts would that have on you, right? Yeah. Yeah, you're not suffering, but you can see how it's definitely something that could, like, go way too far, right? Like, being super mission oriented isn't very useful to you as a person when your family needs something from you, and you're not realizing, you're not sensitive enough to realize that that's what they need, right? Manic episodes, that's a different thing. I used to think that I would go through, like, manic depressive periods. I do think that I have, like, a general overall larger cycle that goes over several months and everything. But I actually find that if I am feeling those things, that it probably has to do with I didn't eat at the right time. Like yesterday, man, I didn't have a super huge lunch, and dinner did not get made, so I was going to the store, and so I put some music on, and I'm looking to get hyped up by the music, and it's just not doing it. The world seems less colorful, and it's like, well, what's wrong there? It's because I'm hungry. Your body just doesn't have the energy to do those things. I know it sounds like a weird thing, but if I'm like starving, like it's been too long, it's been like several hours past dinner and I wasn't able to eat, and then I eat, I can literally tell a difference in how sensitive I am to color. Like, the world looks more colorful. Weird thing. Anyways. Dinner no, actually, it's no. I didn't mean it like that. There's totally situations where it's like, dinner was supposed to be made, and for whatever reason it didn't, and I'm unhappy about it. But yesterday was my fault. So yeah. Yesterday it was my fault because I was doing other things, and my wife was working yesterday, so yeah, man. But like, I didn't have a large enough lunch, and then I didn't end up going and getting food until like 7:30, And I should have left earlier than that, but I didn't. Anyways. Yeah, I just don't do the big brain thing where I need a reason for all of it. I just am. Yeah, that's because you haven't had the experience of you just being like almost completely destroying your life, right? I don't think that I ever did anything that it was like it destroyed my life, but yeah. I never hit rock bottom because I was treated. But I do make mistakes and when I make the mistakes, even if like nobody else cares, I will just think about it more and more and more and more and more and more. You know? That's why I keep coming to, like, this thing, because I think that the discussion we're having is how egotistical is Seth, right? And is Seth posting on Reddit a symptom of his ego, right? So, like, Seth does have a pretty high opinion of himself, and Seth does tend to have pretty high confidence in when he takes a position that he's correct about that position, for sure. Does Seth think that people should think about him or care about him more than other people do? No, I don't. I generally expect to be ignored. So why does that come out into like Seth enjoys posting on Reddit almost to the point that it's like compulsive? Yeah, like if there's not some controversial issue out there on the internet to read about, even if I'm not commenting, right? If there's not some drama people are arguing about, like, life is boring for me, you know? Yeah. You'd rather have people watch you than ICT because you're more correct than ICT. That's true. And I think that the things that he says causes actual harm to people. Yes. Does that make it egotistical? Hmm. Oh no, I don't know about that. So I don't think a person could do what you do, even in limited capacity in which you do it, without being a significant degree of egotistic. No, because the other so having a high ego, or so, you know, I don't know if we have these words are defined well enough for us, because when you say that, then I start to think about narcissism, right? Like, I don't think that I'm very narcissistic at all. But another thing that could drive somebody to do this is just being the people pleaser type of person. That's probably why I do it. That's probably the thing that drives me to do it. Like, especially when I'm off medication, I get a lot out of you know, doing things for other people and getting the social praise for it, right? You take way too much responsibility to be a narcissist. Yeah. So when you that is the most confusing part about personalities. You know, like they say that there's like 6 major components of personality. There is the negative traits, which are like neuroticism, how much negative emotions you have. Um, uh, I think psychopathy is one of them, which is like how much you care about other people, right? And how much, and then what's the other one? And narcissism, how much you care about yourself, I guess. And then the good traits are going to be openness, agreeableness, and what is this last one that we call it? This is the one that's about responsibility. Man. Conscientiousness. All right, so people that good with responsibility and so forth, those are the people that are highly conscientious. Like Mitt Romney is like incredibly high in conscientiousness, right? Okay. I am incredibly high in conscientiousness, but the ADHD makes me really bad at it. That is, I think, a really weird thing about myself. It's a thing that confuses other people too. It's like, oh, this guy seems like he's really responsible and yada yada yada, but then he dropped the ball on this. What the hell is with that? Right? That's why I'm highly conscientious. I'm just really bad at it. I get a lot. You see, you probably are more norepinephrine driven. Like, so now it's come down into like, what are the things that you do that, like, if you couldn't do that thing anymore, life would not be as fun. You know, like you would feel like life would have less color and would be less worth living if you couldn't do that thing anymore, right? So you know what it is for me. I mean, posting on Reddit, you know, kind of does it for me a little bit, but you know what the thing that really is the most for me is taking a warm shower. I'm not allowed to get this arm wet. Still. The tape's all still there, at least. Taking a warm shower, and I'm not allowed to get it wet. So, like, I have to put a bag on. I don't really have the time or the help to put all of the tape and everything on my arm to keep it waterproof so that I can take a shower. So I can't take a shower in the morning. For the past week, I've had to shower in the evening, and those showers aren't very enjoyable showers. And yes, it makes life a little bit less worth living. That's the thing that gets it for me, right? And I will take the longest showers. I enjoy doing it. It's hard to get out of the shower quickly enough, you know? And that's where the thing that I'm sort of getting to is that there are certain things that you might do and that become habit that you get something out of it. Your brain gets something out of it to the point that you will do it even when there's maybe a you know, obviously you're not going to do it if you knew it was going to ruin your life, but you might be willing to take on some negative consequences in exchange for that pleasure that thing gives you, right? But anyways, yeah, Namra says, do the meds make you unempathetic? I've read that comment like in my head like 12 times now, and I just haven't gotten to it. Yes, it does. That's exactly what it does. I mean, my understanding is that the medication suppresses your limbic system, so that that comes out with kind of a couple of different consequences from it, but like the one that we're talking about that bothers me is being unempathetic. I'm keyed in all the time. I'm in battle mode all the time. So I don't think about what other people might feel, how other people might feel in response to what I'm saying, what I should be doing, and how I should be reacting to get the best out of those people. Right? Like, if I was a narcissist, I wouldn't be a very good one. Can you imagine a narcissist that's terrible at somebody that is absolutely completely obsessed with how other people perceive them, but then they're really terrible at managing those perceptions? Oy, that would be terrible. No, instead for me, it doesn't even cross my mind. I'm more interested in getting the point out, or whatever it is that I think that the task is. Like, is going on a big long 30-minute, hour-long discussion about this like really like what most people on this stream want to hear about? Probably not, but I can't help myself but talk about it. Right? But it's not driven by ego. Did you ever work or live in a different culture? You mean, not really. I don't think so. I mean, I've worked at a couple of different places. I don't know. This is a weird thing. So I made a TikTok last night. I don't think that TikTok got sent out. Because, well, maybe TikTok has changed its algorithm a little bit. It seems like it doesn't... That when it used to be you put a video and like 100 people would view it within an hour. But now it seems like it spreads that out over a longer time. Oh, 228. It wasn't bad. But I was talking about how a lot of Generation X, their thing was they wanted to be a rock star. And eventually you give up on that dream and you go and you get a soul-sucking corporate job, right? And I think that what's happening with Generation Alpha, because everybody's like, well, they don't learn anything, they don't know anything. Yeah, they do. But what they know is content creation. Like, they know what sort of things make content and might be good virally. They don't have any kind of know-how to like teach people something to like create content that's actually useful. But that's what their mind is all geared towards. And the problem with that is that's like trying to be a rock star. Like, most people don't make that. And so eventually you go and get the soul-sucking corporate job. That's probably what's going to happen to them. I don't mind working for a corporation. I do not like corporate culture and all of that sort of thing. I just want to have my tasks, and I run and I do my tasks. If my task was managing the tasks and divvying out tasks to other people and determining strategic direction, which is what I perceive being a manager to do, I think I could do that, and I think I could do that well. But there's this whole other bit about like the social stuff involved in being in corporation. I don't care for. I just don't care. But I think that I've managed it working at corporations decently okay. I think I would rather work for a corporation than a super small local company, because I kind of feel like that small local companies actually ask more from you than the corporations do. So I've worked at a couple of different places with different kinds of work cultures, but never anything that's like, like Asian, Japanese culture. I think I would really struggle with that. I think that to fit in and work in American work culture took a dedicated focus for me. And so I would probably take a long time if I was like to move to Japan or something like that. But going back to the point, I actually, this is maybe a better argument to make my point. I don't have to be commenting on Reddit to, you know, like I enjoy arguing with people. I really do. I enjoy arguing with people on Reddit, but I don't have to argue with them. I also just enjoy reading the people on Reddit arguing and saying stupid things and the back and forths that go on there. I get the same joy from doing that. Right? Because I think that the thing that draws me into it is like, it's a serious issue. There are things at stake, right? I am in the I'm going to be keyed in all the time sort of a thing. That's kind of the mentality that the medication puts you into. And so you enjoy more when there's something that you perceive at least as justifying that kind of being keyed in. You got what I mean? So I can come in and like get hyper focused on an issue and just be reading all of this discussion about an issue and be hyper focused on that. And then, you know, the next day completely forget about it. That's what the medication will kind of make me do. Because again, medication will resolve the chemical imbalance in your brain, but it won't resolve like your habits, and it won't resolve like the things that you enjoy and all of that sort of a stuff. So there are some things that I'm kind of like, oh, well, now I have the ability to moderate and control them a little bit, but there's like, I enjoy doing them and I make the conscious choice to like, okay, that's still loud, whatever. Oh, I was searching for the 6 personality traits, and they have some other ones on here that I would say: extroversion, emotionality, honesty, humility. I guess those 3 dark traits aren't actually considered part of the main 6. So, you know what's a weird personality thing that I think is super weird? Is, did you get somebody that is very agreeable, very conscientious, but not very open to experience? That is, I think, a weird, a kind of contradictory combination. Like, if you're really agreeable, wouldn't that make you, you know, want to do what the group is doing and go and do something new, etc., etc., etc.? But my wife is very agreeable and not open, in my opinion. If you present a new idea to her, oh my gosh, it's so flippin' funny to me. It's not funny, but to me it's funny. Is she will express a opinion, let's call it an opinion, but these could be about things that are factual, right? Her perception of what the reality is, right? And then I know that that's incorrect, and so I will say, actually, it's this. And her reaction to it every time is always like, no. It makes her mad so much, like that somebody would dare interject an idea that's different from what I was expecting. But it's because she's not openness to experience. She's not open. You can convince her with logic and all of those sorts of things, right? But her first instinct is always reject the new idea. Always, always, always. Despite being very agreeable. It's a weird combination. Doesn't make sense. I would think that somebody that is like Jordan Peterson, because that was what his research was about, right? Well, that's kind of one of those things is like, okay, if we're talking about personalities and distributions of personality traits and all of the stuff around that, totally trust anything that Jordan Peterson says about it, right? Almost everything else outside of that, you might be on shaky ground. Like Jordan Peterson doesn't really seem to think that ADHD is a thing. It's a thing. It's a real thing, but whatever. I would think that somebody like him would be like really well positioned to understand it, but it doesn't seem to. I don't know what's with that. I don't know what's with that. I don't know. I guess there's one of these things because, like, I think the thing that Uzi's always trying to say when it comes back to is like, okay, so like, if you're not very nice, and that's what I would say is I don't think that I'm as nice as I should be. I'm not as empathetic as I should be, or as I truly am. That's what bothers me about it is the most is that it's like. I kind of want to give people my genuine self because I really think that people would benefit from it, but I need to be keyed in right now. So like, what you gonna do? You know? And he's saying, well, you don't need some sort of a diagnosis or something like to justify you being an asshole, right? But I just don't think that people understand the whole thing that's like when you have a behavioral problem that you really just can't solve on your own until you've experienced that. I think that that's why I understand and focus so much on this idea of that your brain is a real organ that you have to develop. Like if you want to develop trader intuition, that means coming in, looking at the right things, looking at things that you know actually matter, and developing your intuition based off of that, rather than trying to develop your intuition on a bunch of nonsense, because we know that it's building actual brain cells in your brain. And once you've built those brain passages, like they're there. And that could potentially make it more difficult for you to build that intuition, you know? I understand that because I would come into things that I would do that I didn't want to do, that there was no amount of applying self-control and willpower and so on and so forth that would ever change it. You'd go in day after day, you're so focused, I'm not going to do this, and then you lose your focus for a moment and you find that you're doing that thing, and then after you've done it, you've been like, oh wait, I wasn't supposed to do that thing, what the fuck, right? I don't think most people have had that experience. So most people think, oh, I just think something and then I do it and then it happens. And it's because your brain works efficiently enough, you know, that you can get away with doing that. But that's not actually the way that the brain works. Like, there's actual cells going on, you know, being built and making connections under there. It's a matter of taking this nuance of human existence and turning it into a science. I find it unnecessary. Yeah, I'm sure. Well, yeah, because your brain works correctly. like that's what I'm trying to say is, okay, if your brain works correctly, then you probably don't have to deal with those things. You can get through life just fine. If your brain doesn't work correctly, then you have to kind of understand all of that science in order to like even function in the world. And what I'm trying to say is even though you don't need to do that stuff, if you go and you understand all of that science and you understand that stuff about yourself, you can reach a level of personal performance that most people just can't even dream of, right? And that's what I think that I've been able to do is I can fix the problem with medication, and then I understand enough about the way that my brain works and everything to be able to know how I need to adjust my behavior and set up my routines and everything. I can get into a spot. You can't do it all the time because you exhaust yourself, but I can get into a spot where I can be extremely efficient and extremely effective. And I can, so now it's all of a sudden it's a superpower. Like fix the deficiency with the meds and it's a superpower. And I think that most people can kind of develop that superpower too. It's just that they have to do it intentionally, you know? You think about yourself. I think about my thoughts and emotions more than others. It's why we're not the first people that anyone invites to a party. You know, maybe. When I was in my non-medicated period, I felt that we had a pretty decent social life, and kind of what happened was I got on medication, I got married, and then we just only focused on our family, and it completely dropped all of that sort of stuff. And then the COVID happened, and it's like, okay, gonna build that back up. That's kind of hard. I mean, I don't know if me dropping more social connections has more to do with the medication or with just the life circumstance. I kind of feel like it's more the life circumstance. Because I still think about, oh, we need this, we need to do this, yada, yada, yada. I haven't worried too much about it because these freaking kids are just like, right? But it's getting close. It's getting close now. I feel like that a year from now that I do, like one of the things that I'm thinking about is, should I throw a party for the first hockey game? I'm kind of torn. I've kind of gotten everything. I had the part of my carpet that I was like, I can't let anybody come over and see that spot of the carpet where there was a little bit of a fraying and then the dogs got to it and it just looks like a complete mess. I fixed that. I finally focused down enough to be able to call somebody up and fix that. You think you're a broken person who needed medication. I see you as an average person enhanced by it. No, I'm not. Well, I'm special in that I was medicated so early, right? Let me tell you something, man. If I had not been medicated when I was a kid, I don't think that I would be making even a fourth of what I make today. Like if you could go to an alternate timeline and never gave me the medication, I don't think that would make even a fourth as much income as I do today. Part of how I know that is because I come into so many people that were not medicated, that are less ADHD than me, but were never medicated, and see what their life outcomes were. I know the difference, and it's not good. That difference is you've been divorced like 3 or 4 times, and you've never been able to hold a good job, and you're still making, less than 70K. And doing something like really not interesting. I don't know if 70K is what I mean to say is making less than the average income. In my mind, 70K is the average income, but that's not completely, that's not going to be accurate for everybody. It depends on where you live, right? But I'm saying like most of these people that don't get medicated, they make less than the average. versus making substantially more than the average income. Yeah. I am in the end enhanced by it, but I'm only enhanced by it because of my understanding of things, not from the medication itself. That's another issue that I see, is that I see a lot of people, they get on medication and everything, and like obviously it helps them and it helps them cope and everything, but they don't really ever get into the place where like they really excel because they don't know how to take advantage of it. Medication seems to no, because I feel like it's the opposite, dude. It's like when I'm on the medication, I can do and accomplish the things that I want to do, and I can get stuff done, but it leaves a hole. It leaves a hole back over here in this emotional side of you, that you're not your full self, that there's a whole part of you that's a really major part of human experience that is basically being ignored. And you know, it gets ignored because like that part isn't useful to getting things done. That part is useful to living and experiencing life with other people, but it's not useful to getting things done. And you have to pick and choose. And unfortunately for me, the medication that I'm on is one that I'm on all the time. So I can't just be like, oh, for this weekend, I'm going to be a real person. No, I'm always. Yeah, it's interesting in the sense that you're like a corporate sponsor. It is. I think that that's an accurate description. The way that I act is like a corporate sponsor junkie, for sure. Anyways, it's time to shut the stream down, guys. Have a good weekend. I will see you on... Won't be here on Monday. At least I don't think I will. Yeah. Maybe we won't go on a thing and I'll do a stream and I can do some programming, but I don't even know what I would do with programming. So no stream on Monday, but we will be back on Tuesday, and next week is going to be a much busier week, and I'm going to have to focus more on the trading and on the dumb than on yapping about things. So go time. Let's do it. All right. See you next week. Stay excellent.